And we'll make sure the stream is live. Welcome, welcome. Can you hear me? Are we live? Make sure that we can be heard before we start yapping. All right. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Something going on. What is wrong here? Yes, you can hear me? We're live? Is the sound good? Can you guys hear me? Sound is good?
Okay, you want to test me?
All right, Luke, go ahead and talk. We got it rigged a little weird, but go ahead.
Test 1, 2, 3. Everybody hear me?
All right, can you guys hear Luke? Okay, sound is good. We got this rigged a little weird because of the wherever he's located and the difficulty of signing into Hangouts when you're on phone, which I've encountered before. So, so thank you to Luke for coming on. I know he's wanted to have this conversation for a long time. So before we start, I want to say that the video that I have seen from you is the video where you talked about Raymond Lull. I enjoyed your analysis. I was looking forward to chatting with you. And then after that, I kind of tuned out and lost interest. So I haven't watched the other videos. I don't know. I am familiar with the uniate position, but I've not watched Jared Goff's conversation with you. So I told you and everybody else that.
Oh, really?
That you are welcome to have the floor, so you can say whatever you want. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid to discuss whatever topic you want. But I think we're going to talk about divine simplicity. We're going to talk about divine simplicity. So you have the floor.
Okay, and you're gonna answer questions if I give you some questions too.
Sure. I mean, if they're valid,
just gonna let if they're valid questions. Who's going to decide that? Where's the moderator? You?
Well, you said you wanted to have a conversation, so we don't need a moderator.
Well, exactly, but you said if they're valid questions. There's no conditional if it's a conversation.
Okay, so go ahead, man. You have the floor. I mean,
okay. Okay, well, yeah, and you're going to interact, or you're just going to let me fall on my face with good points? I'm serious.
Are you trolling, or do you really want to have a talk?
No, I'm not trolling, and don't characterize it that way. Okay, I'll start. Hopefully we'll have some answers as well. Okay, my position here is basically a characterization that has been made against, I'd say, the Catholic Church. I'm not saying there is we're all pristine and everything like that. It's just, here's a claim of and we'll all admit that the Roman Catholic Church has a kind of careful system of, more so than the Eastern Church. You know, you have these pronouncements and everything like that. We have also a history of scholastic thought, which goes into different places than Eastern theology. And, in a higher form of what you'd call magisterial authority, in the sense of the primacy of the See of Rome and all that kind of stuff. So the caricature of ADS, and that's what I claim. It's a caricature.
Okay.
And to claim that it's Catholic dogma, my point is it isn't Catholic dogma. Like, I'm not in a quandary because of your definition of ADS, which is when you cite Thomas and all that stuff, you can cite as much as you want. It's just the definition that you put forward is not the definition that is in any of the scholastic works. Like when we talk about absolute, absolute in relation to what? Divine in relation, in opposition to being a creature. Simplicity in the patristic sense, even the philosophical sense, which is adopted. I'm not saying that's the whole, the whole gist of simplicity. on the philosophy, obviously, I believe points of revelation. We have the Trinity, you know, a 3-in-1, undivided. So there's obviously caveats there when it comes to human speech and what we can utter about the Trinity and about the unity of the nature, right? So my whole thing is that there is simplicity, an Orthodox simplicity, Catholic simplicity, and the dogma is not this caricature of Thomas that collapses all distinction, right? Okay. And because I don't know if it's you or some of your fans, you know, in the comments, and I don't know if you use avatars. Do you want to admit that? Do you use avatars?
No, I don't have time to do that. Do you see the work that I do? Do you think I have time to police all these different things when there's dozens of people who are doing
I know. It's just, yeah, exactly. Just ridiculous for me to think that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, in the comments, there's like, if they've read your articles, they're saying like absolute divine simplicity. And this is the impression that they have, is that it collapses the distinction of the person.
Correct. Ultimately it does.
So yeah, so that's your position. Well, it doesn't, right? And Thomas, doesn't collapse the distinction of the person. He's one who professes
this has been addressed. Okay, so first of all, can I reply here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have addressed this many times, and the argument is not that Thomas doesn't in many places admit that there's a distinction between nature and person in the Godhead. Of course he does. The argument is that he's inconsistent. It's two different arguments.
Well, then if he's inconsistent, then you're saying the Catholic dogma is inconsistent because it's Thomas.
Well, the Catholic dogma is inconsistent because of the actual dogmatic definitions in Denzinger and other places, which are not synonymous with Aquinas necessarily. But hold on.
Inconsistent. No. You hold on. Inconsistent in interpretation.
No.
You're giving an interpretation that's inconsistent.
No.
Yeah, you are.
No, listen.
Yeah, you are.
Let me finish. So there are multiple people that we can go to who explain what the standard doctrine of. Hold on. We can Edward Fesser. We could go to Ralph McHenry. We could go to any typical moral theology of the Catholic Church, any dogmatic theology, Ludwig Ott. All these standard.
Right.
Hold on. All of these standard works, when they talk about divine simplicity and what it means, they typically use the Thomistic formulation. Now,
which is what?
My argument when I wrote my essay, how did I argue against divine simplicity? I went to Denzinger. I went to all the places in Roman dogma that talk about divine simplicity.
Divine simplicity. And then your weaponized attribution, which isn't even in the dogma.
It is.
It's your it's your interpretation. It's all in your head, Jay. There is no.
It's not. If it was all in my head, then we wouldn't be making so many converts. But the fact that there was, listen, you can't control yourself. Control yourself, man. Control yourself.
Look at all the converts.
We're gonna walk through the different dogmas, and I'm gonna make my case.
The amount of converts doesn't prove anything. You could convert them to a false religion. It happened.
Arius, but I'm saying that's why you're mad. Because you can't control yourself. You can't control yourself. Look, you've lost it.
I did not lose it.
The whole chat thinks you can't control yourself. Sorry, so let's.
Well, good.
Yeah,
they're all your guys, and this is going to be.
They're not all my guys. They're not all my guys.
Yeah, they're all your guys. Most of them are your guys. Hey, listen.
You can't reason logically and consistently.
Okay, keep on talking.
So let's.
ADS lies. Go ahead. Black Lives Matter. Go ahead.
I mean, how old are you? How old are you?
No. Are you a troll? Did you ask me to debate to troll me?
You're not debating. You're losing. You can't follow or stay with the argument. Let's talk about the Roman. Bro, I've read Denzinger. Okay, I've read it more than once. Let's go through the definitions of Denzinger. You're not going to do that?
I'm saying you're interpreting. You're putting in your weaponized ADS into all those things. They say divine simplicity.
Yeah, I know what they say. I know that, right? And I'm saying that let's take Edward Fesser. Do you think he's a representative Thomist?
I don't know. I'm not going to say that.
Have you not read the Foremost Thomist?
Nope, haven't read the Foremost.
Yeah, so
Thomist.
you don't have you have nothing to say here at this. What about Ralph McHenry when he talks about divine simplicity?
Okay. Latine locoris.
What about
Latine
what about Peter Kreeft? Okay, when they when all of these standard when these standard theologians define it, when they talk about the fact that the knowledge, you can't even talk, man. You're like a retard. You have serious mental issues.
There you look at you, mocker.
Yeah, I am mocking you because you're insane, bro.
No, I just said I.
Dude, the whole chat says the debate's over. You've already lost. You can't even talk, man. I invited you on here to say your piece, and you lost.
This is what we wanted.
You act like a monkey.
Okay. Jeta.
You gonna calm down and have a chat or not?
Jeta, are you gonna calm down?
I mean, I'm citing you, Thomas. Edward Fesser says exactly what I say about what divine simplicity is. Literally. I
asked you in Latin if you even read it in Latin, and you didn't respond to me in Latin because you don't read it.
So only a Thomist who can read in Latin understands the Roman doctrine of divine simplicity.
No, I never said that.
Okay,
that is a fallacy.
So that's what you're implying. Can I read you? Can I read you Fesser's statement on what it is? Can I read you Edward Fesser, the foremost Thomist doctrine of what he says divine simplicity is in Thomas?
No, I read your quotation from Fesser. It's okay.
It's okay. It's everything that I've been saying.
No. It's okay if you read it. Go ahead.
As I've indicated in earlier posts, the doctrine of divine simplicity is absolutely central to classical theism. To say that God is simple is to say that he is in no way composed of parts. Okay, we all agree there, right? Everybody agrees. Neither material parts nor metaphysical parts, neither form nor matter, substance nor accidents, essence or existence. Right? Now, this is the point where we depart, because John of Damascus says that God's existence is not identical to his essence. There's a distinction. He makes this argument in book 1 of Defense of the Orthodox Faith. It's very important because he follows through that argument into book 3, where he applies.
I agree with both.
Okay, they can't both be true at the same time because they're two different positions. And when Thomas writes his work on divine,
explain how they're two different.
If you can slow down, I will. Okay, so when Thomas writes his book on divine simplicity and he rejects this argument in John of Damascus, he cites Maimonides, and he says that if John is teaching,
of course he does. That's why I brought up Maimonides.
If John is teaching that there's a real distinction in God, then it would mean that God is composed of substance and accidents. Thomas says, therefore, we know that he's not saying that. The solution to this is that St. John of Damascus does not believe that accidents in God are the same thing as uncreated energies, right? So accidents are not the same thing as...
you're not explaining it.
I am explaining it. I'm telling you what John Damascus says. He says that the uncreated energies are distinct from the essence, and the Thomist misunderstands that and tries to reread John Damascus into being a proponent of Thomistic simplicity when he's not.
Right.
So there we go. So there's two different views. Fine. And in the history of the East, the position of John Damascus becomes normative. Okay, so are you aware of a debate between Barlaam and Gregory Palamas?
Go ahead, say that again.
Are you aware of a debate between St. Gregory Palamas and Barlaam?
Yeah, well, if you watched any of the videos, of course I am.
Okay.
You didn't watch any of the videos.
I said at the beginning of the debate, I didn't watch your videos and I've not followed your stuff.
Right, you're right. I think that's arrogant to ask me on and not even to watch any of the videos.
I don't think you're that important. In your mind, I'm all following your stuff, and I haven't.
No, I don't think you've always said you're not following my stuff. You should have, if you're going to ask me to debate.
No, you wanted to debate. It's not incumbent upon me to learn everything about your goofy religion. I don't have to. I've already spent my 10 years in Roman Catholicism and Thomism. I don't need to. I've been there, done that.
Oh yeah. You know everything. You're the magisterium unto yourself.
Yeah, that's not going to work here, dude.
Yeah,
so
not gonna work
so
here.
After St. John of Damascus, this becomes a debate in the East, and for the East, it becomes normative. I'm saying for Orthodox theology, it's normative that we hold to the Palamite position, right?
Yeah, and it's normative that we hold to the Aquinas position in Catholicism.
Okay, so
no, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't. What about the Franciscans who admit the Damascene?
Yeah, they talk about those distinctions as being notional and conceptual and virtual. They're not real.
No, they do not. A formal
yes, they
distinction
do.
Is not virtual. No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
It's a. Oh Lord, you don't even know what a formal distinction is.
A formal distinction is not an actual metaphysical distinction, right? It's a step beyond. But dude,
so it's not,
Scotism is not the position that Rome dogmatized.
Ex parte.
It's not a real metaphysical distinction in the way Palamas says it.
Well, Palamas is not using this. Palamas is not using Scotian distinction.
Right.
Neither is the Damascene. That comes along when Duns Scotus comes along.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what Scotus said, because what Rome eventually dogmatized was not the Scotus position. Okay, we've been saying this the whole time. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's still a lie. It's just a perspective.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie because Scotism is not the normative position, nor is it the dogmatic position on what absolute divine simplicity is.
And neither is the Aquinan. By
the absolute divine simplicity defined in the Roman dogmas is absolutely more in line with Aquinas.
It's more in line. Now you're giving room. Thank you much. It's not.
No, because nobody says that every single statement of Thomas nobody says that every statement of Thomas Aquinas is part of dogma. If you read Denzinger, there's a whole lot of statements in Denzinger about divine simplicity. And one way that we know that they teach the more Roman Catholic or the more Thomistic view is because they teach the double procession of the Filioque. They don't believe in eternal manifestation. They don't ever talk about the uncreated energies, nor does Scotus, by the way.
Okay, whatever.
No, you don't know what eternal manifestation is. You don't know what that is. Do you know what eternal manifestation is?
Eternal manifestation of the nature?
No. The Orthodox dogma of the Spirit. Do you even know what that is?
Maybe not. Maybe
you no. Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Okay, well then tell me, Jay.
So as you can see, this guy who comes to the table who wants to debate doesn't even know what our positions are. He doesn't even know what the Palamite councils defined when it comes to the Synod of Blachernae, when it comes to eternal manifestation, which it's only possible to believe in eternal manifestation if you believe in the essence energy distinction, which he doesn't make this connection. He has no idea what he's talking about.
BS. Your claim is that it's Catholic dogma, absolute Aquinan, absolute divine simplicity. It's not.
It is.
That's my point. Don't go over the place.
The way that Vatican I and the way that multiple places in Denzinger speak of the simplicity of God are in the Thomistic sense.
No. Just the existence of the Franciscan school tells me you're wrong.
It doesn't matter if there's a Franciscan school because that's prior to the later definitions that I'm talking about. I'm talking about Vatican I.
Prove that.
I'm talking about Trent. I have a whole essay that cites nothing but the dogmas, which I don't even think you've read. I sent you that essay. You didn't read it.
Yeah, but you said the essay's there, and now we're just ADF is there. It's not. You're
in my argument, in my essay, I cite Vatican I. I cite multiple papers. I cite created. I cite created grace. I cite These are the results of that dogma, and they are that dogma. No, if you read that paper, you would know that.
Interpretational schools
tolerated. That's why our church doesn't have all the crazy retardo mess of your church. That's why we don't have all this nonsense that you have, that you're in communion with.
That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous because absolute divine simplicity is the basis of perennialism. Your Vatican II sect teaches perennialism.
Oh, Lord. Now we're going all over the place. It's about ADS being dogma.
Correct. And that's what it leads to.
It isn't dogma.
It is dogma. I show you in my fucking essay.
No. Oh, yeah.
Which you don't even know the basic terms of our position. You've already demonstrated that and admitted that.
You're one guy. You're one guy. No.
It doesn't matter if I'm one guy. None of that matters. All I have to do is cite your dogmas.
No. You do, with your weaponized ADS.
Yeah, because any typical Roman Catholic dogmatician will tell you what I say.
No, a Thomist will.
No, I can cite you other Roman Catholic dogmaticians that will say what I say. Jesuits will say this. Jesuit dogmaticians will say this.
Yeah, what about Franciscans?
It doesn't matter that there was a school of Franciscans prior to Vatican I. Do you understand that Vatican I has a definition of simplicity?
It doesn't have your weaponized one. It's not a Aquinas.
It absolutely does, because guess what? The Filioque is part of that. Do you understand that?
No, it isn't.
It is, because you don't even understand what eternal manifestation is.
No,
if you understood it, you would know that. The Vatican clarification on the Filioque admits this.
No. But it doesn't.
Have you read the Vatican clarification on the Filioque?
Yes, I have.
Okay, then you would know this because it talks about eternal manifestation. So I don't think you've read it, because you would know that.
Right, because manifestations from will and manifestations from nature.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Okay, it has nothing to do with that.
Right.
Okay. You said it was based on double procession Filioque.
Correct. ADS is the root of that.
That is a heretical Filioque.
No, it's
Nobody
not.
claims.
It's the way Florence defines it, you retard.
No. You just read the reduction of every Filioque as dual source.
I can look at Denzinger right now in Florence and read it to you about the double procession. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, go ahead, because it's not double procession. It'll say from the Son, but it won't.
It says that the Father and the Son are a co-cause of his hypostasis. Yeah, of course it says that. The Vatican clarification says that.
That's not double procession. So what does co-cause
Of course it's a double procession. That's what the fucking word means.
No. You mean no? There would be two paternal processions if it was co-causal in the sense of double procession. You can be a cause.
It says that the Father and the Son are the co-cause of his hypostasis, dude.
Yeah, but that's then packed with your interpretation,
dude. There's two different churches over this. It's not just my interpretation. I'm representing the Orthodox Church. The Orthodox Church. The Orthodox. Oh, I absolutely do. It's in our liturgy. It's in our liturgy that you have to accept the uncreated energies.
We're not talking about uncreated energy.
That's how we know our dogmas, dude. We sing that you're anathema. And for many centuries, you anathematize, Uniates anathematized Gregory Palamas, and since Vatican II, he's no longer anathematized. Burned. No. ADS is not your weaponized ADS. You just got burnt, dude. The debate's over.
No. Oh, there you go. No, the Franciscan school proves that you're wrong.
Yeah, well, the entire chat agrees that you just got burned. Oh man.
Well, this is the way you set up anything.
No, it's not. It's because you jumped into this and you literally don't know what you're talking about. You literally have no clue about all of our specifics. I could give you a list of. I have a gigantic reading list which you have not read, obviously, or you would know at least some of these things, and you don't. You have a sophomoric level. You have a sophomore level knowledge of these topics. And you're so arrogant that you wanted to come on here and debate.
That's a lie. You don't even know. You haven't read. You haven't seen any of the videos.
I can tell already in this discussion, you don't even know what eternal manifestation is. It's one of our most important dogmas. You have no idea what you're doing. You're out of your league.
Out of your league. So you're talking about so PhDs who don't know that this is the co-cause Filioque does not make Aquinas's ADS. And your weaponized version.
There's a whole book that I'm going to recommend that you read, which you probably won't because you don't read.
You're condescending. You're so.
You're not. This is not going anywhere. All right, we're done. This dude's done.
Oh, there you go.
That was a retard.
Bye, everybody. I'm not a retard.
You are.
You're very unsure. No, you're not.
No, we won't be speaking again.
Call.
So anyway, there you have it. Multiple issues, no clue what we're talking about. So now what I'm going to do without him losing his mind is we're going to deal with the specifics. So there's the essay that I wrote, which you apparently didn't read, was this essay about the dogmatic definitions of absolute divine simplicity. So I'm going to put that in the chat. There's the essay. What this essay deals with is confirming and proving the very thing that he's challenging. Basically, what we want to show is that Denzinger, in many places, defines simplicity in an absolute way. Okay. And that's all the way from the earliest statements in this essay. We can go back to the Council of Toledo, where we have the beginning of the dogmatic definitions of the usage of the filioque. Now, if he was actually familiar with what we were trying to say and what we're talking about, he would know that we've always said that the filioque dogma is ultimately rooted in the Western conception of divine simplicity. That's why we don't accept Augustine's view of it. We don't accept the filioque as argued by Augustine. And he does argue for the filioque and on the Trinity. Secondly, we want to look at the way that the statements about simplicity when we come up to, say, the Council of Rheims, and this is Denzinger 389. So there's Toledo first, and then there's Denzinger 389. And the way that Denzinger 389 talks about the Trinity is very Latin, it's very Western, right? But even that in itself would not necessarily be wrong, except that it says that God is his wisdom, God is his magnitude, God is his divinity. That is the Thomistic doctrine. God is his divinity. All right. So this is the Actus Purus, probably the earliest statement that I could find, 389, where we have an identification of God himself with the attributes. This is Denzinger 389. So if he had shut up and let me talk, I would have first gone to this. It's in my essay. So what that shows us is that there is two statements already about simplicity, and we start to see a divergence because it's not the way that either St. Basil in letter 234 or the way that St. John of Damascus talks about simplicity in book 1 and book 3 of Defense of the Orthodox Faith, which are around this prior to the Council of Rheims, which is 1148. Now, this is dogmatic because it's in Denzinger, right? They don't ever cite this because it says what I'm saying. It says, as we'll see, the Thomistic view. Then when we move on, we come to looking at this. I interjected into my essay the Sixth Council, because the Sixth Council applies the uncreated energies to Christology. And this is what none of these clowns and these heretics ever do, is make the connection between the doctrine of God's energies in terms of God proper and how then it relates to the incarnation. Because actually the easiest way to demonstrate the uncreated energies and the distinction between essence and energy is in book 3 of St. John of Damascus, when he's rehearsing and talking about the Sixth Council. Sixth Council makes it very clear that the energies in Christ deify his humanity. And that's all based on Maximus's dispute with Pyrrhus, the disputation with Pyrrhus. That whole book is predicated on the essence-energy distinction as applied to Christology. I've honed this in many, many, many times. Now, the reason that this is so crucial is that this is the clearest way. It's clearer than any of the other ways to distinguish the Orthodox conception of the energies and what they mean from the Roman Latin. The Roman Latin went down a different path, where as a result of this doctrine, of their doctrine, they fell into created grace. Ludwig Ott says in the first 4 statements in Ott's definitions of what grace is in the Roman Catholic Church, I have it linked under this video, he says that it is a supernatural created accident. So he says that, if you read, for example, Lagrange's commentary on Aquinas, he says that because the grace itself is created. The grace itself is created. It's called supernatural, but it's still created. Why? Because we cannot compromise the simplicity of God. That's why. Now, other schools that he mentioned, yeah, okay, so there were periods when the Franciscans and Scotus, they debated the nature of grace. It doesn't matter, because over time, Trent defined in its canons, as I link in my article, a specific view of the grace of God. And after Trent, it doesn't matter what Bonaventure or any of these characters said, because it's defined dogmatically in Trent. And it's called a created justification. It's not the justification and righteousness that God himself has. It's a supernatural created accident. That is not the Eastern doctrine of uncreated energies. So this clown tells you that you can have 2 different doctrines of the energies within one church under the umbrella of Crazy Frank. Crazy Frank, who does clown masses, puppet masses, Pinocchio masses. It's a clown church. And these are the kind of clowns who come on and go crazy. I gave that guy a chance. I was going to let him talk, and he can't do it. He loses it. He loses his mind. And we won't be speaking again. I'm not going to talk to any of these clowns. because these people are clowns. They're losing so bad. They're losing so many of their people that they are freaking out. And all they can do is lose their shit. It is so clear in the Sixth Council, in Book 3 of St. John of Damascus, that the real meat of the essence-energy distinction is in Christology. If we were to read Ad Thalassium of St. Maximus, if we were to look at the question, question 63, St. Maximus, Ad Thalassium. The discussion is of the natural energies in God, in Christ, in the triad. And those natural energies, he says, are transferred to the church. He doesn't say that the church is a created effect. He doesn't say that there's a eternal uncreated cause and grace is the effect of those things. No. He says that the uncreated energies are transferred to the church and thereby they deify the church. And in that very section, he talks about the eternal manifestation. There's even a note that the Roman Catholic scholars have here for you about eternal manifestation. And this clown didn't even know what that was, something fundamental to our dogma. And he's going to come here and tell me that I don't know and we don't know. I spent 10 years as a Thomist. I know that they don't know anything about eternal manifestation because I've had countless debates with Thomists. And they don't know what you're talking about. They confuse hypostatic properties with eternal manifestation. He comes on and he says that the Vatican clarification on the Filioque, he says he's read it. It talks about eternal manifestation. So if you've read it, you either forgot or you had no clue what you were reading. It also explicitly says that Florence is correct in teaching a double hypostatic personal manifestation of the Spirit. The Son and the Father are a co-cause. That's in the essay. It's very easy to look at Florence where he says that. If we scroll down, so there's also another statement, by the way, I want to add. Denzinger 432. By the way, if you want Denzinger, it is all online. This is the source of Catholic dogma right here. Putting it in the chat for you. There is all Catholic dogma, roughly speaking. So let's look at what Florence says. 691, Florence. The procession of the Holy Spirit in the name of the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit with the appropriation of this Holy General Council of Florence, we define that this truth of faith be believed and accepted by all Christians, and that all likewise profess that the Holy Spirit is eternally from the Father and the Son, and he has his essence and his person, his subsistent being, from the Father and the Son, and he proceeds from both eternally as from one principle and one spiration. We declare that the Holy Fathers and Doctors have said this. Now, if you've read in depth into what Divine Simplicity's conclusions and implications are, you know very well that the doctrine of the Filioque, as pronounced there, is the result of absolute divine simplicity in the Hellenic doctrine, in the Hellenic definition. And when I talked about the debate with Barlium, this clown acts like that's not Orthodox dogma. We sing it in the liturgy, it's dogma. It specifically is dogma after, for us, this time period. You see this? Crisis in Byzantium. Do you see what is a normative thing for us? Do you see this? Eternal manifestation. He didn't even know what we're talking about. The Synod of Blachernae, one of the Palamite synods, confirmed this. And so if you look at the fact that we have multiple councils in Orthodoxy, The Tomos of Blachernae condemned Bekos. It condemns the attempt to blend East and West doctrines on this. That's our dogma. It's not that hard to figure this out. Now, this whole guy's thing is to be a papal apologist. This is the absurdity of Uniatism. It's ridiculous. Uniatism, for hundreds of years, as in communion with Rome, was revering, reverencing Palamos as a saint. Palamos was not considered a saint, and then Ecumenical Vatican II decided that he was. It's a ruse. All this papal stuff is a ruse. Again, 691 in Denzinger, it states specifically that the Council of Florence says, and this is how the Vatican clarification on the Filioque explains it. It says that the Holy Spirit proceeds from both the Son and the Spirit in terms of one eternal single principle, one spiration. But of course, the Father and the Son don't share a single principle that the Spirit lacks, right? If the Spirit shared in that single principle that the Father and the Son had, then he would spirate himself. You see, this is the whole argument of the mystagogy of St. Photius. And that's why this stupid doctrine has caused so much trouble. And that's why the plates at the Vatican don't include the Filioque. And if he would listen and not be such a lunatic, he would have known this. He would have known what we talk about and what we explain. But he loses his mind. He can't control himself. That's why you have to read, if you can get a hold of it, Free Choice and Maximus Confessor, because all of these doctrines are affected by one's doctrine of simplicity. Of course, the Orthodox Church believes in simplicity. Of course, there are many parallels and many similarities where we do overlap with Catholics or Protestants or whoever. But there's areas where we depart, and it relates to the uncreated energies. And it's not, this is ridiculous. I mean, this whole book discusses this at length. That's why I chose this to do a lecture, multiple lectures on the entire book. I've done all 500-600 pages of this, taking you through page by page by page. So look, this whole book is about the uncreated energies being real. By the time of the 1300s, in what are called the Palamite synods that we sing in our liturgy, therefore it's dogma for us, right? The teachings of these synods, they anathematize those who don't accept the uncreated energies. And they anathematize those who try to seek a false union. You can't unite with Barlaamite positions, with Roman Catholic positions. Now, it's true that Barlaam didn't have every single view that Thomas had. It doesn't matter, because the root doctrine of absolute divine simplicity that Barlaam has is almost every single Roman Catholic and theologian and dogmatic statement's view. That's why there's two churches. This is the root of it. This is what it goes back to. This is why I spent the last week debating Muslims. And what did we see today? Throughout this whole week of debating Muslims, they say the same thing. They say the distinctions are notional, the distinctions are conceptual, the distinctions are virtual. They're not real. And it doesn't matter what John Duns Scotus says. He has little to no influence in the Roman Catholic Church aside from a few of these wacko uniates. And it doesn't matter what a few wacko uniates said, because the dogma of Roman Catholicism has gone in the direction of Aquinas. The dogmas that I cite in my essay, read it in the Thomistic way. Let's finish, before he went crazy, he didn't let me finish, the Fesser quote. The most respected Thomist alive, Ed Fesser. I have indicated in earlier posts that the doctrine of divine simplicity is absolutely central to classical theism. To say that God is simple is to say that he is in no way composed of parts, neither material parts nor metaphysical parts like form or matter, substance or accidents, essence or existence. That's where we start to depart, because we don't identify God's essence with his existence. That would be actus purus, right? Bradshaw's book covers this, Aristotle, East and West. He goes on to say, divine simplicity is affirmed by such Christian, Jewish, Muslim thinkers, such as Athanasius. That's not true. Athanasius does not teach absolute divine simplicity. In fact, the entire argument with the Arians is premised on the energies being real. And you can read Father Florovsky's essay where he proves that I've cited about 17,000 times in the last year. I don't know. I can't keep tweeting that out. I'm going to get in trouble for spam if I keep sharing that essay, if I keep hearing this stupid thing repeated. Anyway, he goes on to say, Augustine, Anselm, Aquinas, Maimonides, Avicenna, Averroes, they all teach the same doctrine of simplicity. Yes, thank you, Dr. Fesser, for agreeing with what I've been saying for this whole time to the rebuke of these clowns. It is the central theology of the pagan thinkers like Plotinus. You hear that? It is the de fide teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. Thank you, Ed Fesser. Can these clowns get a clue? It is affirmed at the Fourth Lateran Council and at the First Vatican Council, and denial of any of this amounts to heresy. Exactly. Thank you, Ed Fesser. The doctrine of absolute simplicity, he goes on to say, it has a number of crucial implications, namely these implications, these which are essential to classical theism. It entails that God is immutable, changeless, and therefore impassible. Okay, yeah, we don't have a problem saying that. He cannot be affected by anything in the created order. Actually, that's not completely true. Even though Christ's divine nature is impassible, when Christ became incarnate, there's one divine person there, and he did interact with the created order, and he did cry. And because of the communicatio idiomatum, we can say that God, in a sense, was affected. It doesn't mean that his divine nature was changed, because his divine nature is impassible, but the divinity is truly becoming incarnate. This is another problem for the simplicity proponents, because if absolute divine simplicity is true in the Thomistic sense, in the Roman Catholic dogmatic sense, it's very difficult to see how one hypostasis could enter into a tropos or mode of being that the other two do not. He goes on to say, therefore, this doctrine entails that he is eternal in the sense of being outside of time and space. Correct. It also entails that God does have existence or an essence, and that his various attributes are identical to his existence, his nature, and his attributes. Can I read that again? The foremost Thomist saying what is obviously the Roman Catholic dogma. This doctrine entails that God's existence or an essence, it entails that he does not have an essence or an existence or various attributes, but rather that he is identical to his existence, to his nature, and his attributes. He is identical to his nature. That is a confusion of the nature-person distinction. Now, does Aquinas go on in other places to posit the Trinity and the distinction between nature and person and the persons? Of course he does. Our argument has never been that he doesn't say that there's a distinction. The argument is that he contradicts himself, because you can't say actus purus and that he is identical to his essence and then turn around and say, but there's real distinctions in God, such as the persons. If he is identical to his essence, he is a statement of personhood, then you're a modalist. God is his existence. He is his existence. He is his essence. I'm quoting him. He, personhood, is his essence. That's a confusion of nature and person. Now, if these clowns would read the Eastern Fathers, they would know that the way to solve this problem is through what's called inhypostatized. Inhypostatization was used by St. Cyril, and it talks about the mode in which nature exists. The mode in which nature exists is always in the mode of persons. Nature is always existing in the mode of persons, in hypostasis, in hypostatization. Comes up many times in this book. And from the time of St. Cyril in the John McGuckin book, it extends all the way into the Sixth Council. It's mentioned in the dogmatic definition, the letter of St. Sophronius at the Sixth Council. This mentions what inhypostatized means. This also teaches the essence, energy, distinction in Christ, by the way. And then it's followed through into the 7th century when John Damascus in book 3 looks back to the time of Cyril, to Nyssa, to Basil, to Maximus, to the Sixth Council, citing the dispute with Pyrrhus, citing the confession of St. Sophronius. In book 3 here, book 3, where he extensively traces the history of the uncreated energies in Christ and what it means to be inhypostatized. This is what they don't get in part. So when they try to say nature doesn't exist in some abstraction, therefore God has to be identical. He has to be identical to his essence. No. St. John Damascus is very clear in defense of the Orthodox faith that all heresies begin in the confusion of nature and person. A distinction between nature and person does not entail division, composition, or that there's parts in God or accidents. The Father, the Son, and the Spirit are truly distinct. And the nature-person distinction is necessary to say that they're truly distinct. The persons are not identical. There's perichoresis, they indwell, they have a common origin in the person of the Father, and the person of the Father is the source of the unity of the persons. But we do not say that he is his essence. He is his existence. Who is the he there? The Father? The Father is his essence? The whole triad is the essence of God? This is nonsense. And again, it's right here. It's in the essay. I have a giant screenshot, because these clowns would say I'm making it up. A giant screenshot of the premier Thomist in the world telling you what the common knowledge of the divine simplicity doctrine in Rome is. Go to the Catholic Encyclopedia. Look up what it says about the divine nature. It will tell you that it means that God's knowledge is absolutely identical to his essence, as are all the predicates in God. And it will tell you that that is the normative definition. And as Dr. Fesser says, after Vatican I, it's not debated anymore. So Roman clowns, you can appeal to Scotus and Bonaventure all you want. Because after something's dogmatized, you can't debate it anymore. That's the point. I'm not left-handed. I'm not a liberal, if that's what you're trying to say. All right. So some good books on this. First book that you want to read is this, because Father Staniloy applies the doctrine of the uncreated energies consistently throughout his theology. Another way that we can know we don't believe in absolute simplicity in the Roman Catholic sense is that the Roman Catholic Church officially teaches natural theology. We don't. So what he doesn't understand is that absolute simplicity in the Roman sense, whatever it is in his mind, it's not a thing that stands alone. It affects Christology, it affects sacramentology, it affects ecclesiology, and it affects eschatology. That's why we don't believe in the beatific vision. Does he not think that absolute divine simplicity doesn't relate to the beatific vision? Does he not understand why the whole world of orthodoxy believes in uncreated energies and doesn't accept the beatific vision? And so this is the place that you'd want to start, where Father Staniloy explains, going from Maximus, natural revelation, not natural theology. Do some church fathers say there's natural law? Yeah. But they don't mean what the Thomist means. That's equivocation on terms. Anyway, so I don't know how many times we have to keep talking about the same stuff over and over and over. I want to address, too, that there was a clown in the chat at the beginning saying that I don't know what it means to say that Christ accepted fallen human nature and that I teach that Christ didn't really have a human nature. Total nonsense. The guy saying that I don't believe Christ's humanity suffered and died. This is all covered in Ad Thalassium 21. So these people are just liars. That's why Christ doesn't have a gnomic will. But you're coming at me, you don't even know what this stuff means. Instead of trying to attack me and trying to take me down and heresy hunt, why don't you stop and learn what we're talking about? Instead of losing your mind. Now, again, to stress the point against him, we know that the Orthodox Church teaches the uncreated energies, right? We know that this is a doctrine of the Orthodox Church. The Roman Catholic approach is to say that this is not a central doctrine per se, but that we can have different opinions on this. We don't see that as a plausible approach to this question. We don't see that as a way to solve it. Not because we don't believe in divine simplicity, but as we saw with Dr. Fesser, who clearly states the normative Roman Catholic view, clearly states what almost everybody says is the dogma. If you want to try to argue that it's not, be my guest, refute my essay where I show that it is. Okay. But what Luke is trying to do is act like divine simplicity is this thing that you can set out over here on your own and list like these propositions that just apply to themselves. Divine simplicity is not just that. It's a whole presupposition. It's an approach that affects all of your doctrines. This is why the Roman Catholic Church doesn't have the doctrine of the nous, because man is made in the image of this absolutely simple thing. So there's a confusion in nature and person in God, which leads to a confusion in nature and person in humanity and anthropology. And that's why they don't have the doctrine of the nous. Nowhere. No Roman Catholic churches believe in the nous. Now you can say, oh, but the Uniates do. All that is an umbrella to try to bring people back into Francis's cult. Francis does clown masses. That's not the true church. Francis does Pinocchio masses. That's not the true church. That's not the head. That's not the Patrine succession doing clown masses. That's the clown world church. That's who Luke's in communion with and telling you that you have to be in communion with. So anyway, I think we'll move to the super chats here. I tried to be as patient as I could, but this is just ridiculous. So let's answer some super chat questions. Marco Kalabik, 10 Canadian. Cheers. Cheers, Marco. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. Skeleton 499. Haven't had a J debate in a long time. Well, you know what? This whole week, we kept opening up the Discord. I've offered all of these people to come into the Discord. They don't know what that is. They're too boomer. And then they act like he's afraid to debate. No. We're setting up a debate with Dillahunty. I'm debating actual known people. I'm not worried about these people. I don't follow these people. I don't have time to follow all these channels who have 1,500 subscribers who are obsessed with me. Weirdos making videos every day, just obsessed. So no, I don't pay attention to you. And we will not be interacting with any of these people anymore. This was it. Paul says, reject a heretic after the first and second admonition. And that's the approach we take here. So we give you a couple chances. That's Paul's dictum. Then you're out of here. We're done. Womp Womp 5. Any recommended Orthodox eschatology book? I'm trying to destroy the vestiges of Protestantism. Well, there is a good one, but it's out of print. It's the monastery, Jordanville Monastery's thing called Apostasy and Antichrist. So if you can find a copy of that, that's a good like 30-page introduction from Jordanville Monastery. But a really good commentary is just Days of Vengeance by David Chiltern. That's probably the best commentary I've seen still to date. And I have quite a few commentaries on the Book of Revelation. But I would also recommend Before Jerusalem Fell by Dr. Ken Gentry. Adolf Schickelgruber, 199. You helped me leave Tradcat world for Orthodoxy. Yeah, see, that's why these people are getting so mad, is because every day I'm getting messages, and it's because people are acting like lunatics. If you would come and debate and not lose your mind and lose your rationality, and not try to just dig dirt up on me, you would probably have a better chance of retaining people than just trying to dig up dirt. Because guess what? I already did a whole stream talking about all the dirt that's on me, so you can't really dig up any more dirt. Anthony Cavalho, $5. Here are some funds. Go grab a couple tall boys with your headache later on. Thank you, Anthony, except I don't drink. So, but I appreciate that. I had to quit drinking a long time ago. John DeFranco, $5. Maybe a lot of these people who get so mad, maybe they need to stop drinking. John DeFranco, $5. F. Yes, this debate got an F for sure. Shining Diamond, $2. Here's some money for dealing with autism. Thank you. JH1, $9.99. Thank you, JH1. Appreciate that. Kaju Koshai, $2. Thank you for the show. Prayers for you and Luke. Yeah, well, let's pray for Luke. We don't hate Luke. We don't want bad things for him or anything. We want Luke to come to orthodoxy, because certainly when it comes to the doctrine of uniatism, it's a halfway house between here and papism. And, 10 years ago, when I first started reading Orthodox theology, I spent about a month considering uniatism. I thought, well, maybe that's the way to go. But it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's a position where you're, for many centuries, doing the Eastern thing, many of them even ignoring Trent, many of them ignoring the doctrine of purgatory, and just pretending that they can be in communion with Rome, but because they believed and they were duped into the papal apologetic by people like Jesuits and stuff like this. There are many forgeries that are now admitted. So they were duped into going back into union with Rome. Again, what are the fruits of Rome? Look at Vatican II. So we hope that people like this will calm down and listen. And if they were to look at the doctrines that we argue for, doctrines like Maximus's Christology, which was confirmed at the Sixth Council, applying the uncreated energies to Christ, it would become evident that in each one of these arenas, the doctrine of God relating to the world, the doctrine of the spiration of the Spirit, the doctrine of Christology, the doctrine of anthropology, the doctrine of the church and the role of the papacy, the doctrine of the sacraments, the doctrine of eschatology, are all affected by the Hellenic doctrine of simplicity. It's evident in every one of the Roman dogmatic manuals that you read. It's evident in the fact that the Orthodox Church still subsists after 1,000 years without being in communion with the Pope, with different dogmas. And those Palamite synods are normative for us. They eventually made their way into our liturgy, and we sing the anathematization of the view of these people. There's no way for us to accept the Thomistic doctrine of the exemplars for created beings and the essence of God. This is another aspect of absolute divine simplicity that we don't teach. Now, if this clown had shut up and listened, he would have known that Maximus teaches that the logi are uncreated energies. They're not the essence of God. So you can't have those two positions at once. But Rome teaches that the essence of God is the basis for all created things. Rome teaches the analogia entis. Father Florovsky's great essay. Gregory Palamas and the Tradition of the Fathers. Let me put that into the chat because this actually deals directly with, well, is Palamism dogma for the Orthodox Church? Is it really? Or is it just this thing that we get hung up on? It is absolutely doctrine. And by the end of this essay, that's what Father Florovsky argues. Of course, Father Florovsky, along with Father Staniloy, two of the preeminent Orthodox theologians in the 20th century. So into the chat right here is the argumentation of Father Florovsky that Palimism is nothing more than Orthodox theology. And it always has been, all the way back to Dionysius, who argues for the essence-energy distinction. When Gregory Palamas in the Triads cites basis, who does he cite? Nazianzus, Nyssa, Dionysius, Maximos, on and on and on. We're not doing rocket science here. It's really actually pretty consistent. You know, I mean, for example, the uncreated energies that deify Christ's humanity, that's how there's a real presence in the Eucharist. You see? It's a consistent thing here. Again, here is the great Father Florovsky showing you, yes, Palimism is obviously our dogma. We sing it. I have been here for years recommending Father Florovsky, Father Staniloy. It's not hard to figure this stuff out. It's not even controversial. Now, there are people like David Bentley Hart. David Bentley Hart is an ecumenical heretic, and he's shown his true colors now. He doesn't even hide the fact that he's like, yeah, well, vote for pro-abortion. It doesn't even matter anymore. Do whatever. David Bentley Hart says that there's no real distinction between God's essence and his energies. Yeah, there is. And everybody knows that that's not what the Orthodox Church has said for centuries. He's an agent of ecumenism, obviously, as are all the people in those circles. They're all a bunch of clowns. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this essay into the description, just because I already know what's going to happen. Where does it say that? It's not dogma. It's not a real distinction. Even though there's a whole book debating with Barlium, the representative of the West, that it's a real distinction. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if Jared Goff thinks it's not. It doesn't matter. It is. It's a real distinction. It's Orthodox dogma. And the Roman Catholic dogma is exactly what Edward Fesser says. Wish maybe I could just screen share that. Let's see if can I screen share that maybe. Because they won't, these lazy people, this essay has been up here for years. These lazy people won't even read it. Let's see if we can screen share this. All right, let's try this, see if this works. I can never get this screen share to work. Here it is. Okay. See if this works. It always freezes up. It's like it's too much for the computer to handle. Can we read Dr. Ed Fesser here? Do I have to go through? Are you two people too lazy to actually just read what the Roman Catholic dogmas are? I've read Denzinger through twice. I'm going to let you read it for yourself. I'm just going to leave this up there as if this is not a clear, obvious statement of Roman Catholic dogma from one of the foremost Thomists out there. Come on. Come on. I'm going to leave this up for the slow people out there to read. Miles Natal, 99 cents. Thank you, Miles. Appreciate that. Orthodox Pilgrim, $20. The only person with more patience is a man named Job. Actually, I got a little impatient tonight, so I didn't do perfect. I have to confess, I did a couple times lose my patience. So yeah, there's so much. There's only so much I can put up with. But, you know, we had it open for a whole week. We couldn't find anybody to debate. I think we're going to get Matt Dillahunty. Dillahunty is now for the third time talking like, okay, let's set a date. So hopefully we can get Matt Dillahunty. If these people are not really as really as well read as you, then they don't have much of a chance to argue against you. Yeah, and you would think that they would approach it differently than trying to come on here and debate. But that's what pride and arrogance do, is that we have a little Dunning-Kruger thing going where we think that we know more than we do. Go buy some craft beer on me. Well, thank you, Orthodox, except I don't drink. Can't drink anymore. Grand Moff Alexander, $2. Quality Spurgout. Spurgout. Don't. Miles Natal, 99 cents. Justin Stam, $20. This is better than a UFC fight. Thank you for reinforcing my inevitable path to Orthodoxy Day. Thank you, Justin Stam. Again, Peter Kreeft, Ralph McInery, Ludwig Ott. Dude, read the statements in Ott on divine simplicity. I mean, they're like the most extreme absolute simplicity doctrine you've ever read. I've read all these. I've read all these books. Okay. Go find Jesuit dogmatic manuals from the 1900s, from the 1800s. They're going to say the same thing. They're going to say the exact same thing as what Fesser says on the screen right there. Right for you. Easy, made it easy for you. He even says it's the same simplicity as these other clowns. And before somebody says,
well, he includes Athanasius in there, so Athanasius teaches absolute divine simplicity. You're refuted.
I'm going to, once again, link you. Father Florovsky proving that the entirety of the argumentation against the Arians I don't care about Kappas or any of your ecumenical. Is this the real Jared Goff? Yeah, Jared Goff. I don't care about. We don't need your papal nonsense. We're not scared of you. I'm not afraid of any of your clown troop. There is Father Florovsky proving to you that Athanasius's whole context for the debate against the Arians is to demonstrate the essence energy distinction. Now, in Athanasius's day, he specifically calls it the distinction between God's will and counsel and God's nature. And he does this to demonstrate that the act of generating the sun is an eternal action distinct from the action of creating the world. This is why we're not Origenists. This is why we're not Eunomians. This is why we're not proponents of Islam. Because we don't believe that the eternal generation of the sun is a violation of the unity of God, right? This is called the Origenist problem. It's been treated up by many, many, many Orthodox theologians over the centuries. It's dealt with at length in Father Staniloy's book. It's dealt with by Lossky in Dogmatic Theology, the new printing that just came out. It's dealt with by many, many Orthodox theologians. I read quite a bit too. The major premise in the debate on ADS fails. No, it doesn't, Jared Goff Queen. It doesn't fail because it's very clear in Roman dogma what absolute simplicity entails. And all you would have to read would be either Free Choice in Maximus or God, History, and Dialectic, Volume 1 for the clearest presentation of the consistent implications of absolute simplicity in the Roman dogma. And I know all about Franciscan University. I've had friends that went to Franciscan University. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Your church is a joke. Your church has a clown pope that you defend. And I don't have to worry about getting into the specifics of absolute divine simplicity when I can look at your apostate pope, who is not in any sense a successor to Peter. He does clown masses. You, by implication, have to defend clown puppet Pinocchio masses. Your pope says heresies every week, and you have an infinite amount of of doctrinal statements and papers that you can plow through, and vast libraries that you can use your casuistry to try to prove and vindicate that Francis is a legitimate successor to Peter, and that's what we must accept, or else we're endangering our salvation. Yeah. You own the two books. Okay, then it should be clear to you that the implications of absolute divine simplicity are exactly what the books talk about. By the way, you own the books. Does that mean you've read the books? It doesn't matter if Scotus is an approved theologian. Do you not understand how Roman Catholic dogma works? It doesn't matter who the doctors are if something is dogmatized. The dogma of Roman Catholic Church, the dogma of Denzinger, right? Goff, go and read Denzinger through twice. Yeah. I mentioned FUS because that's where you're from. Anyway, I'm not dealing with these clowns anymore. You're out of here. Dude, keep in mind here, we can talk all day about all this simplicity crap in them, which they are wrong about. They're absolutely incorrect. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they're here to defend clown masses and Bergoglio. They're here to defend that nonsense. And they can talk all day about, well, but that's not infallible. He wasn't infallible when he did that. It doesn't matter. That's apostasy. Praying in the synagogues towards Mecca, which Benedict did, which Francis did, that's apostasy. Get out of here. Go away. Because you're not going to repent, because you're in love with your own intellect. Who else would defend Roman Catholicism and this doublethink nonsense unless they were in love with their own intellect? We don't need it. It's trash. Thomism leads to all that. Gregory Palamas says to Barlaam at the end of the debate, if you adopt the simplicity doctrine that you hold, you will lead your people to atheism down the road. And what did the whole West do? It adopted atheism. And don't come back at me with, well, Russia adopted atheism. Yeah, because of the atheism that England exported to Russia through people like Marx and Lenin. Yes, that's all from England and bankers, by the way, if you don't know that. Again, just keep in mind, these clowns are here to defend Francis, okay? And they can say they disagree with Francis and it's not infallible all day long. It's all talk. It's all casuistry. They're clowns. They're in a church that regularly does clown masses. They are clowns. That's why they're freaking out, because they think, uh-oh, he might be correct. We might be wrong. Maybe we went wrong a long time ago. And I'm here to tell you that the absolute simplicity doctrine of Hellenism, which Basil rails against, is the root of it. And they can't accept it because they have their PhDs and they have their life invested into that. And I understand it's difficult. I loved Thomism as an elegant system. I thought it was a great answer to Calvinism and Protestantism. And I spent 10 years just plowing through Thomas and plowing through Augustine, plowing. And it's an idol. It doesn't work. Cuckoo Shamanic, $5. Mo debates, please. People won't debate. It's not me. I've tried and try. And the only people who will debate are the people who are mentally unstable. So, and we won't be talking to these people anymore. These people are legit out there. Beck 7 re 82, $10. For more theology content, will Protestant YouTube talk with you? I mean, I constantly open it up to debate. It's constant. I spent 9 hours in the Discord debating. We had a 9-hour straight Discord debate 2 days ago. And yeah, we had a couple Calvinists come in there, but they were new to Calvinism. So Orthodox Pilgrim, $10. I didn't know you didn't drink anymore. I haven't drank in years. So the previous $20, add this $10 to buy an icon. I got a few there. I got St. Maximus there, right? So Maximus is definitely on the icon shelf here. This is not my condo, so I can't make a whole bunch of holes in the wall. And of course, the patron, Daniel. Daniel is my patron. And then we got the Theotokos, we've got Jesus, we got John the Baptist, and we got St. Nicholas, Santa Claus. Bopping heretics in the face. Ban it, $2. I blame the Calvinists. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with Calvinism. Admiral Squat Bar, $5. Do you teach replacement theology, or do you believe that Israel is still God's chosen people? The church is the new Israel. It is the continuation of the Israel of the Old Testament in its fulfillment. But we do believe many fathers teach that Romans 11 it teaches that the Jews will convert in the future. And that's covered again in many commentaries of the church fathers on Romans 11, and in the Orthodox Study Bible, many notes citing St. Cyril about the future conversion of the Jews, Cyril of Alexandria. The Apostasy and Antichrist article has many citations from the church fathers. John Damascus says the Jews will convert, on and on. So don't try to debate me on that. I know what I'm talking about. All right. I don't see anything more. I apologize that I didn't perfectly keep my composure. It's just that, if you go to the recommended reading, this isn't a topic that I put 20 years into totally. Now, I'm not talking about just divine simplicity. Divine simplicity and Thomism, that's probably 12 years. And the question of the energies and Christology, that's been the real focus of my theological approach the last 10 years. So I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm saying that I put a lot of time into that. There's a lot of nuances that go into this. So rather than getting hot-headed and losing it and trying to project onto me errors and heresies, calm down. Just relax, okay? And if you think that there really is a way for divine simplicity in whatever conception you have to be reconciled to Roman dogma, tell me what book you think I need to read. I would be happy with reading. I mean, again, I went through this process many years ago where I read Roman Catholic manuals and whatnot. But the problem is that the people who are getting mad and arguing with me, losing their stuff, they don't even evidence a knowledge of the basics of the stuff that's central to us. He didn't know what eternal manifestation was. That's central to how we understand the relationship of the Spirit to the Son in the eternal energetic manifestation. That's settled for us at the Synod of Blachernae. You can only believe in eternal manifestation if you believe in the essence energy distinction. It's mentioned in the Vatican clarification on the Filioque, which he claims he read, but he didn't know what I was talking about. So if you come here with a bunch of arrogance, you're going to get destroyed. And that's what happened. Can you get JLP? I don't know who JLP is. Who's JLP? Cuckoo Shamanic, JLP. JPL Labs, you want me to get Jesse Lee Peterson? I don't know Jesse Lee Peterson. People have asked him to interview me, but he never expressed any interest. So I doubt he has any interest in talking to me. So anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. Essence energy distinction is debunked by the second letter to Nestorius. Yeah, I mean, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you read the Florovsky essay, he actually cites the many places where St. Cyril of Alexandria uses the essence energy distinction. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't know what this means. Like, you Catholics come to me and you have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, all you're doing is talking nonsense. I mean, this is a gigantic book that includes all the anathemas of Nestorius. Don't you understand that Christology can only be had if you believe in the uncreated energies? This is what's defined at the Sixth Council. So, later, dude. Oh, in the third letter to Nestorius, I mean, yeah, you got it wrong. Exactly. Because you don't know what you're quoting. You're out. JPL, yeah. I'm going to have a Strange Angel up on here. No, we're not having any of those clowns on here. All right. I don't know when the debate with Dillahunty is because he hasn't agreed to have a debate yet. He just said, give me dates, and we gave him dates. So we're waiting on Dillahunty to say yes. All right. So I'm sorry that you had to deal with this stuff tonight. But again, what's the usual reading list that we recommend? Read On the Cosmic Mystery of Christ. Read Free Choice and Maximus Confessor. Read The Dispute with Pyrrhus by St. Maximus, because the entire, how many times do I have to say this? The entire book is predicated on the essence energy distinction as applied to Christ. That's the basis for the Sixth Council. The entirety of Book 3, In Defense of the Orthodox Faith, is about the energies in Christ. The uncreated energies in Christ, based on the Sixth Council. Catholics, read. Lazy Catholics, read. Literally entire chapters. Chapter 15 in Book 3 of Defense of the Orthodox. Entire chapters on the energies in Christ. And you idiots are telling me that Cyril of Alexandria debunked the energies. You are morons. You are a moron. Moron. All right. So those are good places to start. And also, if you want to, yeah, go ahead and read the triads. None of these clowns actually read the triads. They just cite all the stuff they've never even read. Thank you, guys. God bless. Sorry we had tough times. Tough times. We're out of here. Oh, subscribe to Jay's Analysis if you're interested. You can get my book, Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2, signed copies in the shop. And you can subscribe to Jay's Analysis for $4.95 a month or $60 a year, where you get access to my full talks and lectures. The next book that we're going to do is the debate between an Orthodox and a Barlaamite. That's over there on the table. But so that's the next talk we're going to do. Again, confirming that what I'm talking about is legit.